The year was 1957, and a beaming Nikita Khrushchev had changed the balance of transatlantic politics by launching the very first man-made satellite into space. The size of a mere basketball, it shouldered the enormous weight of an entire nation's pride and dreams for world political military domination. While the scales of power were leaning towards the heartland of the Lena and the Volga, it was the American Air Force that ingeniously propagated research into the development of location-based services.
Focusing on satellites in space to pinpoint the exact location of a GPS client, the technology flourished, and by the 1990s there were 20 satellites orbiting the Earth, providing the infrastructure for GPS usage by the US and the British military. The 20 satellites formed a constellation over the Earth's atmosphere, such that at any given location there were at least 3 satellites in the sky above a GPS receiver.
The technique used to determine coordinates was a mathematical one that used vectors and was aptly named trilateration.
Any satellite receiver would measure its distance from the available satellites and use that data to measure its coordinates on the two-dimensional Cartesian grid of the world.
The technology and its users were well funded and usually government-sponsored technophobes, until Robin Hood and his band of merry men, and that's Google, Garmin, Apple, BlackBerry, Microsoft, Navman, Sony, and Magellan magnanimously mandated on a frivolously festive evening that it was the birthright of every man, woman, and child to use GPS.
In the new millennium, GPS is no longer a domain of the military, but has creeped into the realm of the everyday. We did a little test to see exactly how useful it can be. One bright Friday morning, little G was having some trouble getting up. When he remembered, there was something important to be done. Checking his schedule, he began to reminisce the pleasant memories of the yester-eve when he saw the party. Big brother Angsty Ahad was getting together with other suit and ties from the all-important corporate Control Freaks consortium, and it was the sole responsibility of little G to get the party started. To keep his big brother upstairs happy, little G equipped himself with a BlackBerry Curve with an active Google Latitude ID and GPS switched on, and in case that didn't work, a Nokia 5800 with another active Google Latitude ID and GPS capability, and in case that didn't work, Nokia E61 also with supposed GPS capability with yet another Google Latitude ID. This way, Angsty Ahad upstairs could check on the progress of his party prep by seeing where little G was throughout the day. Angsty Ahad shows up as himself at home base, where he can nurse his big brother tendencies. The purpose of this mini saga featuring Nokia Gonzalez, E61 on speed and the BlackBerry Curve was to get a general idea of the workings of Google Latitude given the infrastructure and internet service available in Pakistan. Initially, there isn't much difference, and when he zooms out a bit, it just looks like all 3 little G's are in the same position. On its own screen, the E61 shows its own progress pretty accurately, and also shows the BlackBerry Curve to be pretty much accurate. The E61 and Nokia 5800 are slower to pick up than the Curve, showing up as still at home base, while the Curve was well on its way to the petrol pump, as was little G. The BlackBerry Curve also shows itself and the E61 pretty much accurately, pulling out of the masjid right next to our petrol pump. Nokia Gonzalez, however, is still lagging behind, registering as 12 minutes late. Over on the E61, the Curve shows a lag time of 0 minutes, but is nowhere near current location. Dear old Nokia G keeps on asking for an internet connection and also shows warnings of a weak GPS signal. All in all, the Curve is definitely the leader in accuracy, with the E61 following and Nokia coming in last. Average lag times were 4, 7 and 21 minutes respectively. By the time little G is shopping for balloons in Khadda market, it's once again the first to follow suit. At this point, the Curve doesn't show the E61 where it should be. The E61, however, does show the Curve. Just what exactly does that mean? Well, we're not really quite sure. It's not just GPS, but latitude itself and the phone's internet connections that are also variables. We did note that the Curve was the only one which showed nearly pinpoint and directional accuracy in charting its own progress. There was also the odd moment when even the Curve just randomly backtracked, leaving the E61 in the lead. But that was just once.
The omnipresence of tracking devices on your body at all times is remarkable enough. But thanks to the consumer's smartphone craze, we're doing it by choice. Maybe it's climate change, or maybe it's the electromagnetic waves from our cell phones that have finally gotten to us. Or maybe it's just the fact that the recent popularity of smartphones, like the iPhone, BlackBerry, combined with an outburst of smartphone apps from third-party vendors, have formed the perfect breeding ground for Google Latitude to take over our lives.